Welcome to Flow. Let's get started. Today we'll start off in a child's pose position. Bring your big toes together, bring your knees wide, and send your hips back down to your heels. Bring your forehead to rest on the mat, and start to bring your focus and awareness into your breath. With every inhale, fill the space between your shoulder blades, and with every exhale, let your hips sink a little heavier onto your heels. Start to bring yourself up into a tabletop position. We'll start with a bit of shoulder isolation. Spread your fingers, bring your shoulder blades together, and then do the opposite. Push into the mat and separate through your shoulder blades. And continue this movement, again, just isolating the shoulder movement. So the rest of the back is still. It's kind of like a cat and cow, but we're isolating just the shoulders. Finding this teensy bit of activation here. Spread your fingers wide. And now start to add in the whole cat-cow. So arch your spine, lift your gaze, and then exhale, use the shoulders, but then also round through your upper back. And move through this a few more times. You don't have to match exactly breath to movement, but just make sure that you continue your breath as you move. You can bend through your elbows. And take a few more sets here. Also feel free to pepper in any additional movement that might feel good throughout your body. And then bring yourself back to your neutral tabletop position. Extend your right leg long behind you, extend your left leg long behind you, and lower all the way down onto your belly. Bring your hands outside of your mat, tent onto your finger pads with your elbows pointing up, and then lift your head and your chest just slightly. We're going to start to once again find a little bit of depression into the shoulders. So you'll start to roll your shoulder blades up and back, and then you'll roll your shoulders back down so you get a little more opening into the front of your shoulders. Really press into the pads of your fingers, and again, we're just kind of isolating here into your shoulders, finding a little more rotation, a good amount of stretch, but also some nice activation as you squeeze the shoulder blades together. Now lift your fingertips up off the ground, reach your arms forward, nice and long through your elbows, through your neck, through your spine. Pull your elbows back, bring your fingers down. Release your shoulders forward, pull your shoulder blades together, lift your fingers, extend your arms, goal post your arms, fingertips down. We repeat, roll the shoulders forward, release the shoulders back, lift the fingers, reach the fingers, bend the elbows, fingers to the mat. Shoulders forward, shoulders back, lift your fingers, extend your fingers, bend your elbows, fingers to the mat. Roll your shoulders forward, shoulders back, lift the fingers, reach your fingers, bend your elbows, and place your finger pads down. One more time here, shoulders forward, shoulders back, lift the fingers, reach your fingers forward, pull your elbows back, bring your finger pads down to the mat. Option to stay here or option to press up onto your finger pads or onto your whole hand into a nice juicy cobra pose. And then roll yourself all the way back down and push back into a child's pose. Tuck your toes under so you find a little bit of stretch into the bottoms of your feet and crawl your fingertips away from your toes. Breathe into the length of your spine. And now walk your hands back towards your knees and then roll yourself up and come into a squat. So you're trying to come onto your entire foot. You lift your knees up off the ground. If your heel is lifted up off the mat, that's okay too. You just want to find that nice stretch into the back of your Achilles and your calf muscle. And now slowly start to come out of it by bringing your knees back down to the mat. From here, crawl your hands out in front of you. We're going to take a little variation of a child's pose. It's a more upright position. So your toes are together, your knees are apart. You can walk your hands slightly in front of you. Bring your right hand behind your right head and point your right elbow up to the ceiling. And then bring your right elbow to your left wrist. And we repeat. Inhale, lift the right elbow. And exhale, bring your right elbow to your left wrist. And continue to actively push into your left hand as you spin the chest and the heart open to the ceiling. We take this a few more times, just finding some nice rotation really into the entire spine, but also a good amount of opening into the shoulder. Now hold this one and extend your right arm up towards the ceiling, push down into your left hand, drop your left ear, and then reach your right arm over your right ear. Get a nice stretch all along your right neck. Thread your needle, bring your right arm underneath your left, bring your right ear down to the mat, and stretch your left fingertips forward. Try to spin your heart open to the ceiling. Actively push down into your left fingers or your left palm. Breathe in. And exhale. And one more time, big breath in. And now bend your left elbow, bring your left hand right by your nose, and push yourself back up to this kind of modified child's pose. Flip your toes under and take a moment once again to stretch through the bottoms of your feet. Lift your knees and come into this little squat. This is meant to be a stretch into the Achilles and the calves. If you're unable to get your heels all the way down, that's okay. But think of trying to anchor some weight into your heels as much as you can. Stretch your fingertips forward. Feel this nice rounding through your spine. And then slowly and gently bring your knees back down to the mat. We're gonna take this little child's pose exercise on the opposite side, kind of this half child's pose. Toes together, knees wide. Walk your hands out in front of you. Bring your left hand behind your left head and open your left elbow to the ceiling. And now bring your left elbow across to your right wrist. And take this again, point your left elbow up to the ceiling, push down into your right hand, and bring your left elbow across to your right wrist. We'll take this a few more times. Again, finding some beautiful openness into the chest and shoulders. Also a nice little bit of rotational movement into the spine. Now the next time that your left elbow lifts up, hold there and extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. Drop your right ear towards your right shoulder and reach your left arm over your left ear. You don't have to bring your gaze up to the ceiling. You can just let your head and your neck be lazy, whatever feels best. And now take your left hand and thread it underneath your right armpit into your thread the needle. So your left ear will come down to the mat. You can stretch your right fingertips long in front of you. You can even try to shift your right fingertips a little further over to the left diagonal of your mat. Breathe into the space and the length you're creating all along the right side of your torso. Take a nice full big breath in and full big breath out. Bring your right hand back in front of your nose, push yourself back up. We're gonna come onto our forearms into what's called a dolphin pose. So you can interlace your fingers and then push your hips up. And then take a few moments here to allow some stretch into the backs of your legs. But really, we're gonna start to focus on the shoulders here. So as you're pushing into your forearms, decrease the space between your shoulders and your ears. So push down so much that your shoulders almost connect with your ears, and then let that go, release. So we're finding a little bit of depression here through the shoulders. And this is going to feel active pretty quickly. Actively push down into your forearms, feel that activation, and then with control, find the space again between your earlobes and your shoulders. We'll take this just a few more times. It's a very subtle and small movement. And then from this position, reach your right leg high, and then bend your right knee. And then open your right knee out to the side, and then turn it back in. Just take a few moments here, moving around through internal and external rotation of the right hip. And then replace your right foot back down to the mat. We'll take this on the left side, lift your left leg up, bend your left knee, and again, just play around with that external and internal rotation through your left hip. Just a little bit of movement into the hip here. Replace your left foot back down to the mat. Lower your knees down to the ground. And then from here, bring your hands down and we're gonna come to stand. So just walk your toes up towards your hands. Separate your feet. Soften your knees for a ragdoll pose. We'll take another moment for the Achilles and the feet here. Start to bend your knees, send your hips down towards your heels. If you need to pop your heels up off the ground, take that variation, and then straighten your legs as best as you can. We'll do this a few more times. So bend through your knees, find this deep squat, and then straighten your legs. And again, if your heels are lifting up off the ground, that's completely fine, but try to get your hips as low as you can and find that nice moment of stretch into your calves and your Achilles. And you can use your hands to help you out alongside your feet or maybe behind your feet. Now going even a little deeper, tuck your left shin down to the ground. We're gonna come into a really deep stretch into your right Achilles and ankle. So again, if your right heel needs to be up off the ground, that's completely fine. But take a few moments here, bring your hand onto the top of your right knee, and maybe just experiment kind of shifting your right knee from side to side. You may feel the stretch a little differently into your right Achilles. And take a few moments here. It's gonna feel pretty intense. Just breathe into the stretch. Good, just nice, gentle movement. You want to do something in the opposite direction, so try to peel your toes and the ball of your foot up off the ground. So you're going to feel a lot of activation into the front of your right shin. As much as you can, lift your toes, lift the ball of your foot, keep lifting, keep activating through the front of your shin. I know it starts to get sensitive. Lower your toes and bring yourself back into your Achilles stretch. Maybe you're able to lean a little further forward this time, and also just experiment with kind of shifting your knee, your thigh from side to side, and just notice how that changes the stretch and the opening into your calf and your Achilles. I'm gonna be here for a few more moments. Just make sure that you're breathing. And then slowly come out of this, bring your hands down to the ground, move to your forward fold position, and then just explore for a moment with both feet on the mat. Bend your knees a lot, try to send your hips down to your heels, and notice any differences you may feel from one Achilles or ankle to the other after taking that deep stretch on the one side. Take this just a few times, hips to heels, and just noticing differences. And now we take this on the opposite side. So sneak your right shin down to the ground, your left foot, try to bring it as flat as you can. Bring your hands onto the front of your left knee and then shift your weight forwards. And then from here you can stay still, or you can find just a really easy side to side movement with your knee and your thigh. And that's gonna open up a little bit differently into the back of your left Achilles and left calf. And just keep these simple movements going. We take a good amount of time here just to experience the stretch and feel it a little differently throughout the Achilles and the calf. And now hands down to the ground and try to lift your toes and the ball of your foot off the ground. So it's gonna feel like a lot of activation into the front of your left shin. That's what we're aiming for here. Really try to pull your toes up, pull the ball of your foot up, feel that activation as you lift, lift, lift. It's meant to be challenging and maybe feels a little bit awkward. And then slowly bring your toes back down and move back into this deep Achilles stretch. So bring a little more weight forward into the front left ball of your foot. Maybe take an easy little side to side with your left knee. And again, try to keep as much as your weight forward on your left toes as possible. Take a few more breaths here. And then slowly move yourself back to your forward fold position so your hands can come down to the ground and your right foot will meet your left foot. And then once again, we'll take these deep, deep plies. So bend your knees so much, a deep squat, so your hips come back to your heels. Maybe your heels lift up off the ground, and then lift your hips. And notice any differences you may now feel through the back of your left Achilles, your ankle, and your calf. And now bend your knees and come all the way down to a tabletop position. Now from here, start to slide your hands back, bring your hips down to your heels, bring your hands behind you and find a little mini camel position. So this is meant, of course, to stretch out the front of your hips, but also through the tops of your shins. You can keep your hands on the mat, or if it feels accessible, you can bring your hands to the bottoms of your feet. That's just gonna be a little bit of a deeper back bend, a deeper opening into the chest. And then come out of it by walking your hands forward. Bring your hands back down to the mat and come all the way down onto your belly. Tee your arms out to the side. Bend your left elbow a lot. And then bend your left knee and bring your left foot over to the right. So we're taking a twist from a different origin position. So this variation of a twist, you're gonna feel a nice opening into the front of your right chest. Really push into your left hand And try to reach your right fingertips even further away from your body. Breathe into this space and opening. And come back to center and switch this up. Bend your right elbow, extend your left arm, and bring your right foot so it comes behind you. So you're on your left ear. Push into your right fingertips. Breathe in. And exhale. And then slowly bring yourself back down onto your belly. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders and make your way up to a kneeling position. You can have your toes slipped under, you can bring the tops of your feet down. Take a moment to move around a little bit through your shoulders, through your neck. And this is where we'll end our session today. You can bring your hands to rest on your thighs. Allow your eyes to close or find a soft gaze. And just take a few final moments here. Be with your body, be with your breath, and acknowledge the time and the work that you've carved out for yourself today. Thank you for joining us. And that's your flow.